It's impossible to imagine the Earth as anything other than a planet of life, blue and green and teeming with living things. But 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth wasn't anything like this. It was a barren, scorched world with no life and no oceans. It was a world of fire. And that's why the period between 4.6 and 4.0 billion years ago is called the Hadean Eon. But how do we know what the Earth was like at such an early stage in its history? Well, not a lot. As far back as 4 billion years, the Earth had cooled enough for rocks to solidify on its surface, creating a crust. But over billions of years, this crust has been recycled through plate tectonics, so we can't find any evidence of what the very first Earth looked like. What we do know comes from studying meteorites, rocks from other worlds, and computer models of conditions on early Earth. We piece together clues from bodies like the Moon, which formed in giant collisions with Earth during this very period. So let's go back to the birth of the Earth. About 4.6 billion years ago, the Sun had been shining for about 100 million years, long enough for a rotating disk of gas and dust to form around it. And it's thought that this disk contained a lot more material than is in our solar system today. Many bodies were forming in this disk, including the Earth. Bodies of dust and rock, sometimes as big as entire continents, were flying around and crashing into each other. Eventually, one of these clumps of matter grew large enough for gravity to pull it into a sphere. And that's when it became Earth. But the planet was extremely unstable. It was still very hot, and the surface was a boiling mass of magma. Huge volcanoes were erupting, blasting lava high into the sky. Rain was falling, but it evaporated almost as quickly as it hit the ground. But it wasn't just the surface that was volatile. Even Earth's orbit was chaotic. Every year, it was bombarded by leftover space debris from the formation of the solar system. These impacts were so violent that they completely changed the planet. For example, about 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was struck by a Mars-sized body called Theia. Most of it smashed into the planet, but some material was thrown into orbit. That orbiting debris eventually coalesced and hardened into the Moon, and the Moon, with its gravitational pull, helped to stabilize Earth's orbit and rotation. In fact, this colossal crash is why we only have one moon today. Scientists think that before the impact, Earth had several large moons, but they were either destroyed or pushed away by the new moon. So our moon is actually responsible for stabilizing the entire planet. This bombardment from space also explains why there's no evidence of life before 4 billion years ago. If life did exist during the Hadean, it wouldn't have left any fossils behind, because the rocks containing those fossils would have been recycled by plate tectonics or blasted into space. Meanwhile, on the surface, volcanoes continued to erupt, reshaping the land. But slowly, the planet started to cool. By 4.3 billion years ago, it was just 100 degrees Celsius, or 212 degrees Fahrenheit, cooler than it is today. And that may seem like a small difference, but it was enough for water to condense in the atmosphere and fall to the surface as rain. Over hundreds of thousands of years, this rain filled in the low spots on the surface, forming the first oceans. Some scientists even think that much of the water came from icy comets that crashed into the Earth. Comets are made of ice and dust, and could have provided the raw material needed for life as we know it. Could life have started in these oceans? Well, maybe. The heat from volcanic activity created deep-sea hydrothermal vents, and these vents released chemicals that might have jump-started biological processes. In fact, some scientists think that life actually started in these vents. And if that's true, the earliest life forms might have appeared as early as 4.3 billion years ago. Today, the oldest known fossils are 3.7 billion years old. They're tiny marks left behind by photosynthetic bacteria. So we don't know for sure whether life arose during the Hadean, but the conditions were certainly right. After the Eon, things started to settle down. Plate tectonics started to move the continents around. An atmosphere formed, oceans stabilized, and after about 1 billion years, photosynthesis became widespread. And that led to the Great Oxidation Event, which made Earth the habitable planet we know today. In many ways, the Hadean was the most violent and chaotic period in Earth's history. It was a world of fire without life, a world so different from the one we live in today. But it was also a world of beginnings. Out of fire came water, and perhaps from those boiling seas came the first sparks of life. So the Hadean was Earth's wild childhood, a time when our planet was born from fire. Thanks for watching. To learn more about the Hadean, check out the resources.